3 years after our breakup, I ran into Gu Qinghan again at a luxury hotel. I was working at the front desk when she checked into the presidential suite with her male companion. That night, I received 3 internal calls from her. The first time, she said the sheets were dirty and needed changing. I sent housekeeping to handle it. 2 hours later, she called again to request fresh sheets, and I complied. At 2 a.m., when her third call came through, I politely refused before she could even speak. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Housekeeping is off duty." Her lazy voice replied, "Then you come change them." I ignored her and hung up. My job was at the front desk. There was no reason for me to do housekeeping. My colleague leaned in mysteriously and asked, "Was it that guest in the presidential suite again?" When I nodded, he covered his mouth and snickered. 3 sheet changes in one night? That's quite the stamina. "So what did she say when you said housekeeping was off?" I told him honestly. "She asked me to go up and change them." My colleague paused, then let out a sarcastic laugh. "Just because she's in the presidential suite, she thinks she can boss people around? Does she think the hotel is her home? Treating us front desk staff like 24/7 servants." Before he could finish, the phone in front of him rang. He cleared his throat and answered, then immediately said, "Yes, manager," in a respectful tone. After whatever was said on the other end, he looked at me with wide eyes and said, "They want you to go up to the presidential suite now to change the sheets." 15 minutes later, I stood outside the presidential suite door, reluctantly pressing the doorbell. The one who answered was Gu Qinghan, wearing a bathrobe. Seeing it was me, she stepped aside to let me in. From the bathroom came the sound of running water. She led me to the bedroom, then sat down on the sofa nearby, calmly taking a lady's cigarette. She lit it and took a puff. I silently pulled back the covers, and the water stain on the sheet unexpectedly caught my eye. My chest felt as if it had been punched, a dull ache radiating through my heart. She blew out a smoke ring, her tone laced with a hint of post-indulgence languor. She said, "Thanks for coming. My boyfriend is particular about cleanliness. Can't sleep without changing it. Sorry for the trouble, but please hurry. He's tired." I struggled to maintain my composure. I replied, "5 minutes, that's all I need." I quickly stripped the soiled linen and spread fresh sheets. When I was done, I gathered the used bedding and turned to leave, but she suddenly closed in, pressing me against the edge of the bed, blocking my escape. She leaned closer, and I stumbled backward, falling onto the mattress. In an instant, she was on top of me, pinning me down so I couldn't move. The water in the bathroom was still running. I gripped the edge of the bed, trying to push myself up, but she was trained, far too strong. I couldn't budge her at all. I frowned and pushed against her shoulder, keeping my voice low. I said, "Your boyfriend will get the wrong idea. Let me up." Her gaze was icy, her breath heavy with the scent of alcohol as it brushed against my ear. She said, "After all these years, I still can't figure out why you had to cheat back then." The sound of running water from the bathroom suddenly stopped, but she remained unmoved. In my panic, I gripped her wrist tightly. She winced with a grunt, loosening her hold just enough for me to push her away. Grabbing the bedding, I fled. As the door closed behind me, I vaguely heard her boyfriend's teasing voice, "You're terrible," calling to change the sheets again. "I'll be too embarrassed to show my face tomorrow." I couldn't make out her reply. Walking down the silent corridor, my pounding heart slowly steadied. I had imagined what it might be like to see her again one day, but I never expected that after 3 years, she would hate me this much. It would have been better if we had never crossed paths again. Back at the front desk, my colleague leaned in, eager to gossip. He said, "Do you know who that guest in the presidential suite is?" It was past midnight, and I was tired, with no energy to engage. But he grew more excited and said, "I just looked her up online. She's the heiress of the Huaichang-gu family." I frowned at him for snooping into guest information. "I was just curious," he defended. "No wonder she can call us managers at 2 a.m. with just one phone call." He continued her rapid-fire sharing. "I did a quick search online. There was this massive inheritance battle in the Gu family 3 years ago. This Miss Gu almost lost her inheritance because she got seriously ill at a critical moment. She had a boyfriend at the time, her first love too. He was really unlucky. When things looked bleak for her, he cheated on her while she was in the ICU. And then that guy went off with another woman, making her life even harder. She almost didn't make it through, but she pulled through eventually, and people online are still cursing that guy out. Talk about a gold digger who smashed the pot. He must be regretting it now. He threw away a prime spot as the Gu family's live-in son-in-law. Oh, and I haven't even told you the wildest part. Do you know who he cheated with?" My colleague's chatter buzzed in my ears. I knew. He raised his voice slightly. You know, you've seen the news too. I slowly turned my head, looking calmly at his astonished expression and said, I don't need to read the news. I'm the cheating ex-boyfriend you're talking about. His face froze, stunned for a long moment. Meeting Gu Qinghan was an unusual twist in my life. I intervened when she was being robbed, stopping the thief with my bare hands. I took the robber to the police station. Gu Qinghan followed me with obvious interest, waiting by the station entrance. After I came out, she added me on WeChat and we started seeing each other. She confessed to me. I asked her why she liked me. She smiled without answering, then took my hand and said, I was captivated by the way you disarmed that knife-wielding robber. She was always a tease, loving to joke around. We spent a long time together. She bought a house near the university, and we lived like any other lovey-dovey couple. I grew up with my grandmother after my parents divorced. Once, when I was video calling her, she mentioned that her bad knee was acting up and making it hard to walk. The next day, Gu Qinghan arranged for the best specialists to operate on her and hired a full-time caregiver. Later, I awkwardly brought up the cost. The surgery and care fees came to hundreds of thousands. She signed the bills without even blinking, but I had no idea how I'd ever repay her. Seeing my hesitation, she said directly, Don't worry, I'll cover it. Flustered, I said, If we ever break up, you're not going to kick my grandma out of the hospital, are you? She laughed and ruffled my hair. Back then, I only knew she was well off, not how wealthy. Until once, when I grumbled that the school's startup fund hadn't come through. Coincidentally, that very day, the process for the startup fund established by her group at the school was streamlined, with same-day approval and disbursement. That's when I learned she was the heiress of the Huaichang Gu family. But later, her father passed away. The Gu family's inheritance war was a huge public spectacle. Besides Gu Qinghan, the legitimate daughter, Gu Fu had several illegitimate children. During the most intense phase of the dispute, Gu Qinghan was suddenly hospitalized, diagnosed with acute kidney failure. She was in the ICU for over 10 days. After 2 rounds of dialysis, her kidney function still hadn't recovered. The doctors recommended a transplant, but we couldn't find a matching donor. I even begged her half-siblings one by one, but no one was willing to get tested, because why even would they? With Gu Qinghan out of the way, they'd get a larger share. They wanted her dead. Of course they wouldn't help. Those days felt like wandering in a fog, with no way out. As if sensing the end, Gu Qinghan had her lawyer transfer all her assets to me. Lying in bed, her cool hand caressed my face, gently wiping away my tears. She said meeting me in this life was enough. She had no regrets. But to everyone's shock, no sooner had I accepted her gift than I fell into the arms of another woman. I didn't stay by Gu Qinghan's side through her final days. I betrayed her and pledged allegiance to someone else, and that someone was her father's favorite illegitimate daughter. Rumors flew, and everyone cursed me behind my back. Gu Qinghan's friends hurled insults. That low-class gold digger has no real feelings. With the inheritance still up in the air and Gu Qinghan at death's door, he jumps ship to the most likely heir. What a schemer. I really underestimated him. That gigolo has no loyalty. No wonder my mother said to marry someone from the same social class. The gossip spread. Gu Qinghan begged to see me, and her friends reluctantly asked me to come. When I saw her, she looked even more gaunt than before. She clutched my wrist tightly, her voice trembling. She said, They say you're with her. I don't believe it. Tell me they're wrong. I know you couldn't do this to me. I pulled my hand back and looked at her coldly to say, Gu Qinghan, I don't love you anymore. Her eyes reddened suddenly. In that moment, the proud heiress seemed stripped of all her dignity. Even now, I remember her heartbroken expression. She held my hand tightly, begging, Please don't go. She even cried, asking me to wait, promising she'd secure the inheritance for me, if only I wouldn't leave. But I remained cold, watching her break down. Her best friend finally stepped in, pulling her away and shoving me out of the room saying, Get out, go to your lover and stay away from us. If Qinghan doesn't make it, we'll make you pay. I swear it. At present at 8 a.m., I finally got off my night shift. I'd been home less than 4 hours when my colleague called, telling me to come back immediately. A guest in the presidential suite had lost something valuable. I dragged myself up and rushed back to the hotel. Walking into the meeting room, I saw Gu Qinghan sitting on the sofa, her boyfriend Song Jinyan half reclining in her arms. The manager stood beside them, trying to smooth things over. Gu Qinghan's boyfriend had discovered that morning that his Patek Philippe, worth 3 million yuan, was missing. The only people who had been in their room last night were me and the housekeeper. The housekeeper had already been questioned and cleared. Song Jinyan pointed at me arrogantly and said, "Strip for a search." My eyes instinctively went to Gu Qinghan. I hadn't left her sight the entire time last night. How could I have stolen the watch under her nose? But she made no move to defend me, just sat there with her legs crossed, watching coldly. The manager came over and whispered, "We can't afford to offend her. Just go through the motions." I clenched my fists, refusing to back down. I said, "If you suspect me, call the police. You have no right to search me privately." Song Jinyan jumped up, his tone aggressive. He said, "My girlfriend is a busy woman. We don't have time to go through police procedures over some broken process. That watch is a 3 million yuan birthday gift from her. I knew you were suspicious last night. I came out of the bathroom and saw you running away like a thief. If you weren't guilty, why'd you bolt?" He lunged for my bag. I held on tight, refusing to let go, but he was persistent and eventually wrenched it from me. With a rip, he unzipped it and dumped everything out. A crystal moon ornament fell and shattered on the floor. When Gu Qinghan's gaze landed on that crystal moon, her calm facade finally cracked. Her throat moved, and she said in a low voice, "Enough, stop it. Tomorrow you can pick something else you like." Gu Qinghan dismissed the manager and her boyfriend, leaving just the two of us alone in the room. During the struggle, flying crystal shards had cut my hand, and blood was now beating up. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of concern in her eyes, but I must have imagined it. I crouched down, gathering the scattered items back into my bag. Her expensive Italian heels stopped right in front of me. My nose stung with emotion. Her voice came from above, cold as ice. She said, "She hasn't given you anything decent, has she? She must have gotten a piece of the pie back then. Yet he still let you keep this thing from your ex." I stood up, keeping my tone steady, and said, "We broke up. There's no need for your sarcasm." She paused, then laughed suddenly and said, "She got bored of you and dumped you? No wonder you ended up working here. Too bad if you'd stuck around a little longer, you wouldn't have bet on the wrong horse with Lu Ruyan." I didn't want to hear more and turned to leave, but she grabbed me and pressed me against the wall, gripping my chin. She forced my face up to meet hers. Her eyes were a dark, turbulent sea. She looked down at the thin cut on my hand, marked by a thin line of blood. After a long moment, she turned away, but her words were for me. She said, "I'll drive you back. I have medicine in the car." It was a minor wound, but I still got into her car. I don't know why. Maybe it was that moment of softened tone that made me linger. In the passenger seat, I said, "I didn't take your boyfriend's watch." She didn't respond, as if losing 3 million yuan was trivial. She opened her briefcase, searching through it, then found a box of band-aids and tossed them to me, saying, "Deal with it yourself." As she closed the case, something fell out, a good luck charm. It was the one I'd given her when she was sick. I'd climbed the steps at Mount Putuo, praying for her with all my heart. I thought she'd thrown it away long ago, but there it was, still in her car. She picked it up and tossed it back, her tone laced with irony. At that moment she said, "This thing actually saved my life once. But who would have thought? The one who gave me this charm was you, and the one who betrayed me was also you." My nails dug into my palm. So many words caught in my throat, desperate to escape, but I forced them back down. I couldn't say them. As she drove into my neighborhood, I saw a familiar figure waiting at my door. It was Lu Ruyan. I instinctively glanced at Gu Qinghan. She'd seen her too, her hands tightening on the steering wheel, knuckles white. She slammed on the brakes right in front of Lu Ruyan. My body lurched forward from the sudden stop. Lu Ruyan stood there, frowning slightly at us. Gu Qinghan's icy voice cut through the car as she said, "You just can't stop messing with your exes, can you?" I didn't answer. I just unbuckled my seatbelt, saying, "Thanks for the ride." Gu Qinghan locked the doors, blocking my exit, a mocking smile curving her lips. She said, "Oh, by the way, did Lu Ruyan even give you a severance package? Or were you not worth the price?" Hearing this, my anger flared. I almost slapped her, but stopped myself mid-swing. Lu Ruyan's expression changed, and she hurried to my side of the car, anxiously knocking on the window. Gu Qinghan clicked her tongue, her gaze fixed on me as she said, "Get out." I got out, and Lu Ruyan immediately pulled me behind her protectively. The window rolled down, and the good luck charm was thrown out, landing at my feet. The black sports car sped off in a gust of wind. I crouched down, picked up the charm, and gently brushed the dust off it, my eyes stinging. Tears welled up and fell onto the charm, leaving dark spots. Lu Ruyan knelt beside me, her voice bitter. She said, "Just tell her the truth. I don't mind. If she comes after me, it's my burden to bear. You don't have to protect me." My voice was hoarse. I replied, "It's okay. That chapter of our lives is over." The next day after work, the manager suddenly announced a staff dinner and sent me an address for an upscale club. It was suspicious, but I went anyway. The hostess led me to a private room, and to my surprise, it was full of Gu Qinghan's friends. Gu Qinghan sat at the head of the table, her gaze casually sweeping over me. A familiar woman spoke up. "So, I heard we lost something of Miss Gu's worth 3 million. Today you're here as the representative to make amends." I recognized her. She was the owner of our hotel. Trapped there, I couldn't just storm out. They seated me next to Gu Qinghan, and I had no choice but to raise my glass and down a drink as an apology. Gu Qinghan's best friend stood up and declared loudly, 3 million worth of jewelry? One drink won't cover it. How about 100,000 per glass? Her tone was full of vengeful satisfaction. The net of justice was closing in. I was the guilty one caught in it. Gu Qinghan glanced at me and smirked. 300,000 per glass. Glass after glass of alcohol burned down my throat, searing a hole in my chest. Dazed and drunk, I slumped over the table, vaguely hearing her friend ask, "If you're still attached, why not toy with him again? I could have them send him upstairs." Gu Qinghan laughed dismissively. "Someone Lu Ruyan got tired of? Why would I want him?" Her friend responded, "Then at least rough him up. Here's the room key." I don't know how long I slept, but in my dreams, I was back in our early days of love. She used to worry about my stomach problems and took me to a renowned Chinese doctor. The medicine was so bitter, I'd grimace with every sip, and she'd quickly pop a sugar-free tangerine candy into my mouth. I'd pout and say I'd never drink it again. She'd pull me close and kiss me, the sweet taste passing between us. Her voice low and seductive. "Still bitter now?" she'd ask, leaving me blushing and stammer. I'd ask, "Is this how you always get your boyfriends to take their medicine?" She'd laugh and say, "I've never had another boyfriend, only you." Then the bed sank, and the person in my dream became less gentle. Everything felt so real it took my breath away. Instinctively, I pressed against her shoulder and whispered, "Qinghan, go easy." The next moment, I opened my eyes with difficulty. We stared at each other, silent for a long time. Maybe it was the alcohol swirling in my veins that made me blurt out, "I didn't cheat on you back then." My voice was raw, like gravel. She quickly asked, "Then tell me, why did you get together with her?" My lips parted, about to say something, when my phone on the nightstand rang. We both looked. The caller ID showed Lu Ruyan. It was like being doused in ice water. I sobered up instantly. I struggled to sit up, but she pushed me back down, not letting me get up. Through gritted teeth, she demanded, "Chu Zhe, explain yourself." She loomed over me. Her gaze was intense. I turned my head away, avoiding her eyes. She laughed and said, "There's nothing more to say," a bitter glint in her eyes. "So you love her that much? One call from her and you're dying to get back together? What's so special about her that you could leave me?" Chu Zhe, I was insane to think you had a reason. Just then, I was thrown out of the room by Gu Qinghan. I walked down the hallway, my steps unsteady, as I looked up to see her boyfriend Song Jinyan approaching. The night air was cool, and he was wearing only a thin shirt. He walked past me without a second glance, phone pressed to his ear. As he brushed by, he deliberately bumped into me. I winced, but he ignored me. I heard him cooing into the phone, "Not yet. What if you got pregnant? Would you take responsibility? Marry me? Really?" My steps faltered. I suddenly remembered a quiet night years ago, my arms wrapped around her neck, my whole body tense. She soothed me with gentle words, and in that moment, I forgot all the pain. Afterwards, she stared blankly at the sheets. I held her and asked what she was thinking. She leaned down to kiss my forehead, her gaze growing deep. "Just giving yourself to me like this? Aren't you afraid I might let you down?" I held her tighter and said stubbornly, "I'm not afraid. I trust you." She touched her nose to mine. She laughed softly and said, "Neither do I. I can't wait to marry you." Those words were scattered by time, perhaps long forgotten. At the hotel entrance, Lu Ruyan's car was already waiting. She helped me into the car asking, "What happened? Did you drink a lot?" I stayed silent and she didn't press. The car drove through the thick night. Watching the scenery blur past the window, I suddenly said, "Let's go back. Let's leave in a couple of days." For 3 years, she had stayed by my side. When we were abroad, she'd confessed that she'd liked me for years, since a fleeting glance in our first year of high school, and that her feelings had never changed. But my heart was still full of memories of Gu Qinghan. I politely turned her down. She stayed my friend. Now, I heard her say softly, "Okay, let's go back. I'll book the tickets." At home, I went into the bathroom and took off my clothes. Turning to the mirror, I saw an ugly scar on my side, the mark from my kidney donation surgery. Back then, Gu Qinghan refused to let me get tested. She said if she had to take one of my kidneys to save her, she'd rather die. I pleaded with all her siblings. Only Lu Ruyan came in for testing, but she wasn't a match. I secretly went to another hospital to get tested. Good news, I was the only match. Bad news, I had stage 2 hypertension, which made me a high-risk candidate. The doctors warned of potential complications, but I didn't care. I underwent the surgery at another hospital without Gu Qinghan's knowledge. I asked Lu Ruyan to help me stage the betrayal. No one else knew except her. Because the surgery required lifelong monitoring, Lu Ruyan helped me find specialists abroad and took me there to recover. Later, my kidney function declined. 3 months ago, the doctors recommended another surgery, but it was high risk. After leaving the hospital that day, Lu Ruyan asked if there was anything I wanted to do. The sun was warm and the breeze gentle, but I stood on foreign soil with red-rimmed eyes. I said, Lu Ruyan, I want to see her one more time. If this really is goodbye, let me see her properly. Gu Qinghan never imagined Lu Ruyan would have the nerve to come to her office. She'd always had no time for her promiscuous father or his scattered, illegitimate offspring. But she agreed to see Lu Ruyan, perhaps out of some mixture of resentment and bitterness she couldn't name. She expected a fight. Instead, Lu Ruyan laid a surgical record on her desk and said, "Did you never wonder where that kidney came from? Gu Qinghan, do you think it just appeared by chance?" Gu Qinghan's heart suddenly lurched. She opened the file. When she saw the patient's name, she went completely still, the blood draining from her face. It was Chu Zhe's surgical record, a kidney transplant, dated the same day as her own surgery 3 years ago. Watching her face go pale, Lu Ruyan spoke calmly. Chu Zhe and I were high school classmates. I had a crush on him then, and I confessed in college. He said he already had a girlfriend. I never knew it was you. Later, he came to me, begging for a match test. That was when he learned who I was, your half-sister. The rumors were false. He got tested behind your back. We only acted out a scene. Gu Qinghan lunged at her. Grabbing her collar, she asked, "Why did you go along with it? Why didn't you stop him?" Ruyan answered, "I tried. I even sank low enough to beg him to give up. But he insisted on giving you his kidney. He said he couldn't let you die." Lu Ruyan smiled bitterly and said, "He pleaded so desperately that I agreed to help him deceive you. These 3 years, nothing happened between us. We were clean." From what followed, Gu Qinghan finally pieced together the truth that had clouded her for 3 years. Every word struck deep into her heart. She continued saying, "His surgery is next Monday. I asked him if he had any last wishes. He said with a sad smile he wanted to come back and see you." Gu Qinghan asked hoarsely, "Was that hotel? Was it also your doing?" Ruyan responded, "I knew you had a long-term suite there. It was the only way you could accidentally meet without having to interact closely." Gu Qinghan closed her eyes in despair. Her hands trembled, spilling coffee onto her skirt. The surgical report crumpled in her grasp. She thought about how he came back to see her, and how she'd hurt him again and again. Every single incident now felt like a knife slicing her heart open. She curled up on the sofa and finally broke down, sobbing. She finally understood. That kidney that appeared out of nowhere came with the heaviest, most painful price tag imaginable. In my hospital room, I was anxiously taking deep breaths before surgery. Lu Ruyan had gone somewhere. I looked toward the door and saw Gu Qinghan standing there. I must have been so nervous I was hallucinating. She looked haggard, her makeup smudged, eyes bloodshot. She was always so put together. The last time I saw her so undone was back when she was gravely ill. When we met again, she was radiant, powerful, with a handsome young boyfriend. Without me, she seemed to be doing just fine. As she came closer, I heard her tremulous voice call my name. "If I had known this, Chu Zhe, I would have rather you really had cheated back then." Her eyes red, she held my hands in hers. Hot tears fell on my skin, burning into my heart. So it wasn't a hallucination. She'd really come. Her beautiful, cool face was now wet with tears. She said, "I need you to come out of this alive. I was wrong. I owe you. When you're out, we can start over." As I was wheeled out of the room, I held her hand and said, "I'll make it out alive." Gu Qinghan watched as I was taken into surgery. The operating light came on. In that long wait, she felt like her heart was suspended in midair, fear gripping her so tightly she could barely breathe. She was wearing the jacket I had bought her years ago. She hadn't worn it since we parted, but even in her bitterest moments, she'd never considered throwing it away. She leaned against the wall, her hand slipping into the pocket where she found something. She pulled it out. There, in her palm, lay a dozen dried clove blossoms, their petals withered and brown. That early summer, the campus was full of blooming clove flowers like scattered stars. Most had 4 petals, but occasionally there were 5-petaled ones, said to bring luck. I had once told her, make a wish on a 5-petaled clove and it'll come true. I even dragged her all over campus to find them. She thought it was silly. She could have had a truckload sent over. But I insisted that only those we found with sincere effort counted. She finally helped me collect 18 5-petaled blossoms. I had made my wish and secretly tucked them into her pocket. As she recalled, she tried to smile, but her throat tightened first. She closed her hand, clutching the petals tightly. Across the boundary between life and death, this time it was her turn to make a wish. From daylight to darkness, the surgery room lights finally dimmed. The doctor emerged with a smile. Through the window, early summer sunlight filtered through the feathery leaves, scattering dappled shadows. Through tears, she could almost see me again. That year, standing in my white shirt beneath the clove tree, whispering sweet words in her ear. I made a wish. I want to be with you year after year. That vow remained etched in her heart forever, a lifelong prayer.